What if the history of space travel had a secret hero? Someone who went to the edge of space not once, not twice, but 6 times, clearing the way for the first humans to touch the cosmos. And what if that hero wasn't a person at all? This is the story of Otvazhnaya. In Russian, it means the brave one, and she was. She started as a stray dog on the streets of Moscow and ended up a legend. But her incredible journey is also a story of sacrifice, one that you don't always hear in the grand tales of human achievement. It makes you stop and think about who the real pioneers of space actually were. Let's go back to the late 1950s. The world was deep in the Cold War, and the biggest, craziest race wasn't on a track, it was to the stars. The Soviet Union was desperate to beat the Americans into space, but sending a person up there, into the great, terrifying unknown, that was a risk they just weren't willing to take. Not yet. So, they came up with a solution that was both brilliant and heartbreaking. They turned to the stray dogs of Moscow. The scientists figured these animals were already tough. They knew hunger, they knew the cold, they knew how to survive. They believed this made them perfect candidates to handle the brutal stress of a rocket launch. They had a special preference for female dogs. They were thought to be calmer, and honestly, it was just easier to design a bathroom suit for them. Think about that for a second. These dogs were chosen because they were seen as expendable, but if they succeeded, they would become national heroes. The training they went through was absolutely grueling. Imagine being locked in a cage that gets smaller and smaller for weeks on end, just to get you used to being squeezed into a tiny capsule. They were spun around in centrifuges to feel the crushing force of a launch, and blasted with recordings of rocket engines so loud it would shake you to your bones. It was physically punishing, but you have to wonder what it did to them mentally. Every bark, every nervous twitch was written down. Because in this game, data was everything. There were amazing breakthroughs. In 1951, 2 dogs named Desik and Segan became the first to be rocketed to the edge of space and come back alive. It was a massive success. But there were also devastating failures. On his very next flight, Desik died when his capsule's parachute failed. In 1960, 2 other dogs were killed when their rocket exploded just seconds after liftoff. Every loss was a hard lesson, and the lead scientists took it personally, pushing for new safety features like an emergency ejection system. Each dog that survived was a symbol of hope. And in the middle of all this, one little dog, who started with a totally different name, was about to begin a journey unlike any other. A journey that would earn her a new name, one that would be written in the stars. Her first name was Kusachka. It basically means biter. She was just another stray, probably destined for a short, hard life. But the Soviet space program had other plans. On July 2, 1959, they strapped Kusachka into the nose cone of a rocket. With her were another dog named Snezhinka, or Snowflake, and a rabbit named Marfusha, Little Martha. This wasn't a trip into orbit. It was a suborbital flight, a giant leap straight up to the very edge of space, more than 60 miles high. They weren't just sending up dogs, they often included other animals to see how different bodies reacted. Can you even imagine what that was like for them? First, a roar so loud it feels like the world is ending. Then, a powerful force crushing you into your seat as the rocket fights its way into the sky. We know from other flights that their hearts would have been beating 3 or 4 times faster than normal. And then, total silence and weightlessness. For a few confusing minutes, they were floating, experiencing something no creature from Earth was ever meant to feel. The trip back down was just as dangerous. A high-speed fall through the atmosphere with everything riding on a parachute opening correctly. But it did. They landed, shaken, but okay. For Kusachka, this was just the beginning. She flew again just 8 days later. 8 days! They were clearly testing how a body could handle that kind of extreme stress over and over. This time, her partner was a dog named Otvazhnaya, or Pearly. Another flight, another safe return. This little stray was proving she was made of something special. She was calm, she was tough, she was exactly what the scientists were looking for. It was after her fourth successful mission, in June of 1960, that they gave her a new name. She was no longer Kusachka, the biter. She was now Otvazhnaya, the brave one. It wasn't just a new nickname, it was like a coronation. It was a formal acknowledgement of the incredible courage they had seen with their own eyes every time they sent her to the heavens. But why her? Why did they send Otvazhnaya to the brink 6 separate times? Was it just because she was physically tough? Or was there something else they were looking for? Something so important they were willing to risk their most experienced veteran? Otvazhnaya, now living up to her new name, kept flying. Her third trip was on June 15, 1960, with a dog named Malik, or Small Fry. Success. 9 days later, she flew her fourth mission. Success again. By her fifth flight, on September 22nd, with a dog named Neva, she was without a doubt the world's most experienced space traveler. Physically, maybe. But after her fifth flight, the people who worked with her every day noticed a change. Otvazhnaya, who was usually an active, confident dog, started acting reluctant. She didn't want to leave her kennel. She stopped running and playing with the other dogs. The brave one was showing the strain. This wasn't a physical injury. Her medical tests were all normal. It was something deeper. It was the psychological toll of her journeys. The scientists saw it. They realized this could happen to human astronauts too. But their conclusion was a bit chilling. They figured that humans, with their strong will, would be able to push past it. It was a stark admission of the invisible wounds that space travel could inflict. And even after seeing this, even after noticing the toll it was taking on their most celebrated dog, they sent her up a 6th time. Her final series of flights made her a living, breathing testament to how reliable their rockets were becoming. Each time she flew and returned safely, it wasn't just about her. It was proof that the technology worked. She was their gold standard. She had endured what most people can't even imagine. But what was it all for? How did this one little dog's incredible bravery actually change our future? Otvazhnaya's 6 trips were anything but pointless. All the information they gathered from her flights was essential. It directly shaped the design of the Vostok spacecraft, the ship that would carry Yuri Gagarin on the very first human flight into orbit in 1961. Her journeys and the journeys of the other dogs proved it could be done. They gave the Soviet program the confidence to finally send a man. Gagarin himself once joked, "I don't know whether I'm the first man in space or the last dog in space." It's a funny line, but it perfectly captures how important these animals were. Otvazhnaya became a true hero. Her face appeared on postage stamps. She was even the star of a popular children's book. Imagine kids all over the Soviet Union reading about the adventures of this brave little dog. She was a symbol of Soviet power, a furry face on the cutting edge of science. This was powerful propaganda, sure, but it also made people feel a sense of wonder and pride. And after the world had condemned the Soviets for sending the dog Laika into space on a one-way trip, Otvazhnaya's survival was a powerful counterstory. She was proof of their success. But you can't tell this story without talking about the shadows. Laika's tragic death had sparked a huge debate about using animals for science. Even one of the lead scientists, Oleg Gazenko, who worked with Laika, said years later, "We did not learn enough from this mission to justify the death of the dog." It's a stunning admission from an insider, showing that even they struggled with the morality of it all. Otvazhnaya's story, with all her successful returns, feels different. It feels hopeful. She represented the program's ability to learn and improve. Her resilience became their beacon. So what happened to her? After her 6th mission, Otvazhnaya, the undisputed champion of space dogs, was officially retired. The specific details of her later life are hard to find, which was common for these animal pioneers. Once their job was done, they often faded from the official records. But we do know that many of the surviving dogs were well looked after. Some were even adopted by the scientists who had trained them. It seems that real bonds were formed between them. And we have that one hopeful detail about Otvazhnaya herself. After showing all that stress and fear, she gradually did become the confident dog she had been before. That's so important. It tells us she had the strength to heal, not just physically, but in her spirit. Her life is an almost unbelievable story of courage. A stray dog who faced the terrifying emptiness of space and came back again and again. She was more than just an experiment. She was a living creature who contributed to one of the greatest adventures in human history. Her flights gave us data, yes, but her story gives us something more. It's a reminder of the non-human partners who took the first giant risks. They were among the first to see our world from the heavens, the first to feel the strange magic of weightlessness. They took the fall so that humans, one day, could fly. Otvazhnaya, the brave one, her name was earned. She was a small dog with a huge heart, a true pioneer who helped humanity reach for the stars. Her journey is one of the most incredible chapters in the story of space exploration. If you've been moved by her courage, there's so much more to learn. You can dive deeper into the history of the Soviet space dogs through books and resources linked in the description. What do you think about these canine pioneers? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about their legacy. And if you believe these amazing, unsung stories from history need to be told, consider subscribing and liking this video. Your support helps us make sure that heroes like Otvazhnaya are never forgotten. Thanks for watching.